childhood. I hated school, I was disruptive. The sum total of my formal education resulted in 4 O-levels. It wasn't just that I didn't like school, I absolutely hated it. It was like there was me over here, and somewhere over here there were all the things that I wanted to do and be, and I didn't know what most of them were, but I just knew that they were going to be absolutely fantastic if only I could do them. And between me and the person that I wanted to be was school and schoolwork, like the Berlin Wall, patrolled at the top by teachers. And I'm not saying that to be down with the kids or like some moaning 60s Trotskyite hippie. The fact is that in the 50 years of my career, I've been into school after school after school. First of all as a director of a children's theatre company, then as a children's entertainer, and finally more recently I've written 25 factual books for kids. And whichever school I go into, there are always dozens and dozens and dozens of kids who are incredibly smart, have great vocabulary, light on their toes, very witty, incredibly streetwise, but like me, rather than seeing school as the means whereby they can do what they want to do and be what they want to be, they see it as the one thing that prevents them doing what they want to do and being what they want to be. At best, their indifference to school, and at worst, they see it as the enemy. And I'm sure you agree with me, that breaks my heart. And I really want to know why that should be the case. Is it, as some people assert, because our schools are full of lousy teachers? There are people who say that, aren't there? There are newspapers who say that. But throughout my whole life, I've known loads and loads of teachers. The mother of my kids taught at a comprehensive school for year after year. And I have to say that I think virtually every teacher that I have ever met is in some kind of way a hero, working in really difficult conditions, working at a really difficult time to be a teacher and being slagged off constantly. I think teachers are great, and I really think the more we celebrate teachers, the further we're going to step on in our understanding of how we can improve the education system. So no, I don't think the teachers are at fault. So is it the kids? Well, again, virtually every school that I go to, every kid that I see, however disruptive they might be, however lousy they might be at timekeeping, and boy oh boy doesn't that do your head in. Nevertheless, there's a flicker in the eye, isn't there? There's almost invariably something interesting, something intriguing, some kind of aspiration buried somewhere. I do not believe that for some weird reason Britain alone is producing these great waves of dysfunctional children. I believe we need to look closer at the education system. And my assertion is that one of the big problems with our education system is those at the top of it, and I'm speaking particularly because that's my experience of the politicians who drive education programs within this country. There is a disjuncture between them and the future of education, because by and large, I believe they see good education as the kind of education they got when they were a kid. They may deny it, there may be this cosmetic attitude towards the future, but by and large, I believe that's the case. And you can't blame them in a number of ways, because the fact they got where they are to a position where they can make all those decisions seems to prove to them that that kind of education is the right kind of education for now, but it quite patently isn't. And I give you a couple of examples of the way in which they do this and how negative it is. In the early 2000s, I was on the National Executive Committee of the Labour Party, and that was at the time of the Blair government. It was at the time when politicians were seized with this idea that 50% of all kids should go to university. And it seemed such a radical idea. It seemed such an anti-elitist idea that really nobody, certainly nobody around the Labour government, wanted to question it. And it was only some time later that the reasons why it was such a lousy idea in many ways became apparent. Because if you've got 50% of kids up there, then by definition you've got 50% of kids down there. If you're pouring thousands and millions of pounds into this new aspiration, where the hell is it going to come from? Because no group of politicians are going to magically find that money out of anywhere other than the education pot. So the kids down here got less and less and less, and FE and apprenticeships and extramural education, adult education, they all went out the window trying to fulfill this notion that 50% of our kids should go to university. And of course the degrees got worse and worse, didn't they? As all these kids were hurtling through this degree sausage factory, and loads of employers were no longer interested in the idea of kids having degrees because so many of them had got degrees. And one thing that really still bedevils us today, and it drives me nuts, and I'll speak about this from my personal experience, is that lots of education establishments which had no need to give degrees had to start giving degrees if they wanted the money. And I would cite drama schools. Why the hell do you need a degree to be an actor? I went to one of the greatest drama schools, the Central School of Speech and Drama. Prior to me being there, Judy Dench was there, Vanessa Redgrave was there. I went there before you got a degree for being an actor. I just waved my 4 O-levels. Nobody cared whether I had them or not. I went to the drama school, I did my 3 years, I came out the other side, and have managed to earn a living ever since. The notion that I needed a degree to do that was absurd. In fact, I would argue that it's made those kinds of occupations worse by making them degrees, because you have to overlay some kind of objective criteria onto something which is essentially instinctive, which is painful, which is subversive, which is dangerous. But we're lumbered with this education system now, which is so cockeyed because of these decisions that were made in the early 90s, not, I hasten to add, by the bad guys, and they were mostly guys, by the good guys. These were people who really cared. These were people who had wonderful educations. Their friends had wonderful educations. They went to wonderful universities. They dazzled. They went to Princeton and Yale to do their postgraduate degrees. They came back and became political advisors, and then MPs, and then ministers. They wanted everybody to have this wonderful education that they had had, and they missed it by a mile. They absolutely blew it. And I'm not just pointing the finger at my own party, the Labour Party, although I have been pointing the finger at quite a lot lately. The same, of course, is true for the Tories. A number of years ago, I had a spat with a Minister of State for Education. I won't mention his name because that's not what's important. It's the principle that's important. So we'll make him anonymous. And I'll give you a clue. Do you remember years and years ago, before Ant and Dec got famous, they used to be in a BBC children's television series together, which was called Biker Grove. Yeah, well, this Minister of State for Education had a name that sounded very like Biker Grove. And it was on the 100th anniversary of the First World War, and he was doing a tour of all the studios about the First World War. And he said that he didn't think Blackadder should be a teaching aid for teachers who were teaching about the First World War, and it certainly shouldn't be part of the syllabus. And there were three main reasons why he said this was the case. Firstly, because Blackadder was funny and World War I was desperately serious. Secondly, because we traduced the senior officer class. And thirdly, because Blackadder was a fantasy and the World War was real. Now, I happen to be doing a tour for Discovery of studios at the same time, promoting a series I just made for Discovery. So obviously, the presenters asked me what I thought of Biker Grove's comments. And I said, firstly, funny is not the opposite of serious. Trite may well be the opposite of serious, but funny isn't. From Aristophanes through to Shakespeare, to Brecht and beyond, serious points have consistently been made using humour. And if a Minister of State for Education doesn't know that, what the hell are they doing at the head of our education system? Thank you for that round of applause. It allowed me to reach for the water. Secondly, as far as the officer class in the First World War was concerned, it seemed to me that Biker wasn't making an education point, he was making a class point. The reality is that since the Restoration, all officers in the army up towards the end of the 19th century had to come from the aristocracy and from the moneyed class. This was deliberate policy to ensure that there was never again a people's army like there was in Cromwell's time. So of course the officers in the First World War were from the upper classes, and there was no fluctuation as far as that was concerned. And of course their experience was the wars that had happened previously to that, the two South African wars, the Afghanistan war, Sudan, all that kind of thing. So they came into the First World War totally unprepared for it. They were intellectually completely inflexible, and it wasn't until three-quarters of the way through the war that they began to understand that their model, their imperial model for war, which was basically having lots of machine guns, charging forward against people in the colonies, digging in again and then charging further forward, simply wasn't going to work. Now that seems to me quite a valid point to make in a series which teachers offer. And if teachers think that it's overstated, what will they do? They will make the alternative point and ask their children what they think. The third thing that Biker said was that Blackadder isn't real. Did you seriously think that if teachers put it on in the classroom, children wouldn't know that it wasn't real? That they had no concept of the difference between satire and reality? How much is that traducing the kids in our classrooms? How much is that traducing our teachers? It's a bit like saying, isn't it, that you shouldn't use Wilfred Owen in the classroom in order to teach the First World War, because children would then think the whole First World War rhymed. It's madness, it's nonsense. And yet, because of that childhood that Biker had, the good school he went to, and then on to Magdalen or whatever it was in Oxford, he thought he wanted to see this new, lean kind of education system as he saw it, back to basics, which would prepare kids for the future. And it's still happening now today, and that's why I've gone on about it at length. A few months ago, we lost a load of A-levels, didn't we? Why did we lose them? Again, the argument was that we needed this lean, spare system, get rid of all the flipperies and concentrate on what the kind of subjects, the kind of syllabus that is going to make children in the future able to adapt to the future. And yet, none of us has a bleeding clue what the future is going to be. None of us can predict what's going to be happening in 6 months, let alone 5 years. Do we know what's going to happen as far as the EU is concerned? Of course we don't. Do we know what's going to happen as far as American trade is concerned? The relationship between America and North America and South America? Do we know what's going to happen in the China Sea? Of course we don't. Do we know what's going to happen to our own economy? What's going to happen in the Ukraine? What's going to happen in Lithuania? The whole balance of the world is under threat. I don't want to be an alarmist. I don't know what's going to happen. I do know, for instance, that there is a great chance that global warming will impact so much that our seasons will alter completely. We may well lose lots of bits of our east coast. It may well be, God help us, that the Gulf Stream will either switch off or start going further south and leave us looking a bit like Iceland. None of us know what happens, but we all know that what we are going to have to do, and what our kids and grandkids are going to have to do more than we've ever had to do, is adapt, 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 adapt. So surely the argument should be that there should be more subjects out there to engage with, more different sorts of inspiration. For instance, the A-level that we've lost that I care most about, of course, is archaeology. What is archaeology as a subject? It's forensic. That's what it does. It looks at little pieces of information in exactly the same way as CSI does, and out of pulling these bits of information together, it comes up with a vision of what reality is. Surely that is the kind of thing that we require for our kids. It's also multidisciplinary. It uses not only archaeology, it uses history, it uses geography, it uses sociology, it uses a whole variety of different things in order to match and mix in order to see what's going to happen in the future. One of the other important things about it is it's an environmental science. Our environment is so under threat. Surely we need our kids to have an understanding of the fragility of our environment, the relationship between our culture and our environment, the kinds of legislations that we'll need, and kids who can roll up their sleeves and adapt and transform it. Most importantly, and I think most importantly for this afternoon, is it's a technological subject, archaeology. 25 years ago, archaeology was about digging a hole and finding stuff. Now, you don't need anything invasive at all. Archaeology is driven by technology. Archaeology is about the fact that you can look at the ground and immediately understand what's below it. Why did we invent a program that said archaeology in just 3 days? Because it's the first time in history that anyone has ever been able to do that. The speed with which we can assess stuff, not just what's under there, but who lived there, the DNA that we can use now, the carbon-14 dating, the dendrochronology. Archaeology has become like space travel, but not where we go into the past, but where the information from the past constantly bombards us. And how do we read it? Via technology. In other words, there is no difference, as it were, between archaeology and the technology that it uses. They are all part of the same thing. And that, I think, is something that a lot of senior political practitioners and senior civil servants really don't get. They see technology as an add-on. When you ask so many of them about technology in the classroom, what will they start talking about? Sexting, grooming, cheating, and writing the same old essay that was written 5 years ago, except it looks prettier because it's been tarted up on a computer. And of course, in a sense, all of those things are really major threats which we've got to learn to address. But actually, those kind of fears and those kind of arguments come up every time a new technology pops its head above the parapet. It's exactly the same kind of arguments that were used when Caxton invented the printing press, when Marconi invented the radio, when John Logie Baird invented the television. It's as though there's something about a new technology which is dirty, which sullies what went before, which breaks the beauty of what went before. But I would argue that there is another half to that, which is very exciting and is inescapable. And that is that new technologies are, by definition, subversive. The old rules will be overthrown because they're simply not needed anymore. The old structures become redundant. New technologies are almost always, by definition, in some sense, democratizing, because they create situations where more people can address stuff than was the case previously. Even kids, when they're being naughty in their use of their iPhones in school, yes, of course they are being naughty, but in some very crude way they are engaging with the opportunities presented by the new technologies in the way that the teachers aren't. Now, I don't know, of course, what the future of education is going to be. I'm just some bloke off the telly who was invited here probably because he used to do time tea. But I do know that technology is moving faster than it ever has before. And it seems to be the case, and there was an article about this in the paper this morning. It was in the Guardian, so most teachers would have read it. In 50 years' time, it's likely that there will no longer be any computers because chips will be impregnated into every block of pavement, into everybody's hair, into everybody's clothes, into trees, in every part of our life. In fact, in a sense, our whole world will be one computer with which we are interacting. And in that case, I would argue that even if that is only 25% true, our whole education system as we know it today will become entirely redundant. And that if we try to resist that, we will be swept away just as so many institutions have been swept away over the last couple of years or so. This isn't idealism anymore, is it? This is the new practicality. This is the new reality. Now, it could be that our whole education system will end in mayhem, or it could be that we're able to manage it because we are able to see further ahead and because our masters allow teachers and teachers' assistants and the kids themselves to drive us forward into a whole new mode of education, which we probably can't even envisage at the moment, or is just some intoxicating shadow out there. And I have confidence in you, and I have confidence in our children, that we will, in some way, be able to create something in the middle future which will excite the children, which will engage the children, which of course will use the next move forward in social media, which will transform our lives and which will allow our kids to become engaged in the adventure of this gloriously unknowable future.